tonight turned away at a homeless shelter, just as the city announces more spaces for those looking for a place to sleep this winter.
Is there anything available?
We're at capacity at the moment, sir.
The first snowfall and beds are already full. What does it mean for people in need and the cold weather ahead? Plus,
we were literally on our porch just watching everything unfold. We had no idea what was going on.
Brampton residents trying to come to terms with what happened after two boys are allegedly killed by their father. And 40 years after the Mississauga miracle, a new exhibit is revisiting a time many long-term and former residents will never forget. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. We have video to show you tonight of a man trying to get into a Toronto homeless shelter last night, only to be told the system was full. As our City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly tells us, this is happening even as the city opened new respite centers with hundreds of new spaces.
Is there anything available?
No, we're at capacity at the moment, sir.
Doug Johnson Hatlam shot this video last night at the shelter referral office on Peter Street. The message he heard over and over was that no beds were available.
Then the city will say the next day that we weren't at capacity.
As a pastor with years of experience doing outreach work, Hatlam doesn't buy the numbers.
I've long called these beds that they say are available magical beds because they help the city to say we're not at capacity, which is what they told me last night, but they can say that publicly in press releases, but nobody ever gets to sleep in them.
His concerns come as Toronto faces a growing homeless population, meaning hundreds more people are relying on shelter beds. The city's latest numbers show the permanent shelter system is bursting at the seams, around 94% full. And it's even more crowded at some of these newer and supposedly temporary pop-up respite centers across the city, like this one here in Liberty Village that's open 24 hours. Most of these are at full capacity. Councillor Mike Layton trusts the city counts, but says officials are struggling with the high demand.
Now, the number of beds isn't everything. Like, we also have got to look at what is the length of stay and what can we do to keep people from losing their housing and entering the shelter system. Without solutions, this outreach worker believes people will keep being turned away.
In the short term, we need to declare an emergency. We need to get the provincial government and the federal government involved. We need to save lives in the short term. And in the long term, we need to make sure that as many people as possible have housing.
People are sprawled out all over the floor.
Hatlam worries this could be the situation all winter long for Toronto's most vulnerable residents.
I mean, for them, it's another brick in the wall. They've had trauma and neglect and exclusion for so many parts of their life that they hear it and they oftentimes kind of roll their eyes and say, oh, well, what did I expect?
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
A single vehicle crash at the height of rush hour shut down all 401 eastbound collector lanes this afternoon. Police say the woman who was driving the car had no vital signs when paramedics rushed her to hospital. The eastbound lanes were closed for hours while the OPP collision reconstruction team investigated what led up to the crash. A 14-year-old girl is in hospital with serious injuries after she was shot early this morning. Police looking into the possibility it was accidental. They were called to an apartment building on Finch Avenue near Weston Road around 12:30 in the morning. Neighbors heard gunfire. They found the teen inside. She'd been shot in one of her legs. Ambulances took her to Sick Kids Hospital, and she is expected to recover. As to what happened, well, police have a theory.
Our investigators are doing their due diligence with the investigation with regards to it possibly being an accidental discharge of a firearm, but we have to explore all avenues of investigation first.
They add no one is in custody and no weapon has been recovered. Police say they are aware of who allegedly fired the gun. William Cummins has been convicted of first-degree murder and assault in the killing of Zack Nura. Nura was a 25-year-old aspiring music journalist from Ottawa. Cummins attacked him and two other men outside a restaurant near Yonge and Davisville almost 4 years ago. The men accused in the killing were previously convicted of lesser charges. A first-degree murder conviction carries an automatic life sentence with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Cummins will be back in court next week. A neighborhood in Brampton still reeling today after the deaths of two young boys, allegedly at the hands of their own father. Talia Ricci has the latest.
A small memorial has started outside 12-year-old Jonathan and 9-year-old Nicholas Bastida's home. Lives allegedly lost at the hands of their father.
You see the stuff as entertainment on TV, you see it on the movies, you see it on the TV shows that you watch, and you enjoy it. But when it actually happens across from you and it's to people that you know, it's like it takes all that out the window, and it just leaves like a very chilling feeling in your body, honestly.
We've learned that Jonathan had autism. Neighbors tell us that he was very friendly, energetic, and always said hello to everyone. Both boys loved to play with the neighborhood dogs.
Nicholas, he loved to ask questions, very inquisitive personality. Jonathan was just more quiet.
Just 24 hours ago, the homes of these neighbors were behind yellow police tape. Peel police were called to this house on Hibberton Crescent near Sandalwood Parkway and Credit View Road late Wednesday night. Police say they received the call from someone inside the house. Aaron lives right next door.
We were over there last Monday. Dinner was everything was normal. We were all sitting at the table.
But Wednesday night, he saw his neighbors being taken away in handcuffs.
I believe it was the dad that came out first. He was just very, straight, there's no emotion or anything. The mom, when she came out, she looked over to us. She was in tears. It was very she couldn't move.
52-year-old Edwin Bastidas has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Police say they have never been to his home before, but wouldn't confirm whether the suspect was known to them. The Duffer and Peel Catholic District School Board says a tragic events response team is one way they're trying to support the students.
Really, they're going to be watching carefully everybody and trying to notice who it's impacting. Obviously, all students are going to feel it.
At St. Bonaventure School, where neighbors tell us the boys were in grades 4 and 7, a letter was sent home with parents last night informing them of the loss.
Prayers were offered for the families, for the students, and generally for the community as well. Flags flying at half-staff in memory of the 2 students, and likely at some point in the future they'll have some type of memorial service.
For those living beside the police tape, it will be a while before this tragedy settles.
Very saddening. They had obviously a future to grow up, to become something in life, and to see that taken away at such an early stage in their life is very hard.
They were very good people, very kind, very generous and loving, and it's just a big shock.
Police still haven't released the boys' cause of death. They did tell reporters yesterday that there were no obvious signs of trauma. Police didn't give us any other updates today, but we also spoke to neighbors today about the mother. They described her as very kind and sweet and said she would always offer to do them favors. Obviously, their hearts going out to her tonight. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Brampton.
Well, the clock is now ticking down to a possible strike by elementary teachers. The union representing the teachers has received a so-called no board report from the Labor Ministry. That means they will be in a legal strike position on November 25th. Elementary Teachers Federation President Sam Hammond says the union will continue to focus on contract talks and try to reach a deal with the province. Last week, union members voted 98% in favor of a strike. EDFO represents 83,000 elementary public school teachers, occasional teachers, and education workers. Colette Kennedy's here with a first look at the all-important weekend forecast. And the good news, Colette, is that it is warming up tomorrow.
That is factual, Mike. You're right, and it is good. We want to try and focus on the positive. Sure, we're warming up a little tomorrow, a little bit into Sunday as well, but still, you take tomorrow's high, you'd have to triple it to get to seasonal for this time of year, but hey, right direction, at least in the short term. Daytime highs today, can you believe this? Just freezing. That's the best that we could do. We shouldn't be at 10 degrees, but up there around 8, just over 8 degrees, almost 9, in fact, where we should be. -1 today, the best you could do in Markham, Hamilton, St. Catharines. Yep, just capping it there at freezing. Now, looking ahead overnight tonight, some of those winds that were giving the lake effect snows easing a little bit, but kind of changing direction. We're still going to look to see some intermittent flurries possible here into the GTA tomorrow, but primarily I think what you'll notice is just some extra cloud cover building in as high pressure is moving away from us. And a look overnight tonight then at your temperature -5, feeling like -10. Tomorrow, yeah, there you go, Mike. Warmer than today, 3 degrees.
Technically warmer. We have to take what we get. Thanks a lot,
You got
Laura.
it. You're right.
Toronto Fire is investigating after a 4-alarm blaze at a Toronto community housing building in St. Jamestown. The fire started on the 9th floor of 200 Wellesley Street East around 8 o'clock this morning. No one was seriously hurt, but 2 people were taken to hospital. We spoke to the man who lives in the unit where the fire started. He says it may have been the result of a late-night cigarette he had in bed.
Woke up a few minutes later, and not because of the fire alarm, but the actual flames in front of my face, and I just actually washed off my forehead. I'm like, oh wow, there was soot on my forehead from the actual flame.
Toronto Fire has not yet determined if the cigarette was the cause of the fire. Residents on the 9th floor where the fire started were evacuated and provided with temporary housing while officials investigated.
A train carrying poisonous chemicals and gases is burning in the Toronto suburb of Mississauga. The train derailed and exploded late last night.
That's 40 years ago this Sunday night. A train derailment in Mississauga forced 240,000 people from their homes. Coming up, we'll bring you to an exhibit that's highlighting what's known as the Mississauga Miracle. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Sunday night is the 40th anniversary of the so-called Mississauga Miracle, when a freight train derailed and rocked the city with a series of explosions. No one died, but 2/3 of the city's population were forced from their homes. That included me and my family, which is why I was interested in exploring a new exhibit that captures the stories of other people who lived through the experience.
Here is a special news report. A train carrying poisonous chemicals and gases is burning in the Toronto suburb of Mississauga.
As ambulances arrived and departed, officials kept a close eye on a cloud of deadly chlorine gas rising from the site of the accident and moving toward the hospital with every shift of the wind.
It's a night those who lived through won't forget. A fireball ripping through the suburban sky, visible 100 kilometers away.
Evening.
It certainly caught the attention of people attending Marie Lusinger-Busic's wedding reception.
The worst thing happened is our guests leaving and finding that there's a red sky in Mississauga. Oh, what was going on over there? There's something something is going on.
She and her husband weren't even aware there was a train derailment on her wedding day until many of her guests showed up at a luncheon the next day after spending the night at an evacuation center.
Some of these ladies were still in the same gowns and evening shoes and blaming us for disaster that happened because they had no chance to go and change, but at least they get a warm meal.
Her story is just one of many collected by museum curators in Mississauga as part of an exhibit showcasing artwork and memorabilia inspired by that fateful night.
Because too, no one was really hurt. I think then you look back now and you have like a good feeling about it, the nostalgia, and we all came together and it was a success and we were put about our home. I remember this, but it wasn't like a big tragedy.
That is why it's known as the Mississauga Miracle. Just before midnight, November 10th, 1979, a CP train carrying a number of dangerous chemicals derailed at Mavis Road. Several propane tanker cars exploded, rocking the immediate area. In the first 2 hours following the explosion, officials evacuated nearby neighborhoods. By 4 a.m., the area expanded again. More residents woken in the middle of the night. Many people heading to Square One, a makeshift evacuation center, still in their pajamas. By daylight, officials realized there was a potentially catastrophic danger lurking under those burning cars. A tanker car filled with deadly chlorine gas.
Be prepared for a possible evacuation later on this evening. I repeat, be prepared for a possible evacuation later on this evening.
Police started warning more residents to get ready to leave. With a cloud of smoke in the distance, ambulances started transferring patients out of Mississauga General Hospital or discharging them altogether. By 12:30, the evacuation zone expanded again, both the hospital and Square One being emptied. By 3:30, a good stretch of the city was told to leave. By midnight, just over 24 hours since the explosion, the evacuation order covered 240,000 people, stretching from the east end of Oakville to the west end of Etobicoke. Half an hour later, Mayor Hazel McCallion declared the city closed for business.
I want the people to have up-to-date, factual information. No rumors, please.
I don't know of any other thing that happened during my 36 years that was as serious and as demanding and as stressful as the Mississauga derailment.
Mississauga was a ghost town, yet there were no reports of looting. Crews eventually managed to put out the fire, then repaired the tanker cars, removing the risk of the deadly chlorine gas escaping. After several days, residents who'd been living with friends or in makeshift shelters were told it was safe to go home.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you get home?
Make sure the water's hot.
Have a shower. Take a bath? Yes.
Get a bath.
Well, wasn't this a holiday?
Are you kidding?
Everything looks great. We didn't get looted. That's good.
This year's exhibit tries to capture that sense of returning to find hungry pets or dying plants. The evacuation created a shared experience for those who went through it, even an identity. Been there, got the T-shirt.
I remember the T-shirts. It must have been Christmas 1979. These were a hot item at Square One.
The exhibit's curator says even though it was a deadly serious few days, it's okay to look back on them now with fondness.
Because of the positive outcome of it, becomes a positive memory, right? So it was an adventure. It was fun. It was, the people now that we talk to that are in their 40s and 50s were children then. Yeah. It has largely been recounted as a fun adventure.
That's what I remember. My fun adventure was once I relocated to Oakville, then into Burlington. I went back to my old elementary school, reunited with old friends.
Yeah. Lucinda Busick looks back at the experience and says she doesn't mind that her big day is now forever linked with the big explosion.
Most of our friends or relatives that they were at the wedding or they said, for your wedding anniversary, it's so easy to remember. You just turn on radio or TV, and there you are. It's disaster, but we are thinking about your derail, Mississauga derail, but we actually think about, okay, oops, it's their wedding anniversary, let's call them or send card or whatever, yeah.
And she'll be one of the people taking part in a reception hosted by Heritage Mississauga. People coming together to share their stories. That's this Sunday afternoon at the Grange on Dundas Street. It's a live look at the Toronto skyline tonight. We've got a chilly and wet weekend ahead of us. Colette is back after the break with your full forecast.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Raptors in New Orleans tonight. Some big plays for Montreal's Chris Boucher. When Lowry misses a three, he's there for a huge putback jam. That actually capped an 18-0 Raptors run. Late in the half, though, Serge Ibaka comes down on OG Anunoby's foot. He turns over on his ankle. He'd actually limp off to the locker room with a right ankle sprain. Second half Raps with the lead, and they keep pressing. Fred VanVleet cross court to Anunoby. The nice pass to Pascal Siakam. Finishes with that dunk there and ties a career-high 44 points as Toronto wins 122-104. Colette's back with her extended forecast. And Colette, I'm just trying to help you put a positive spin on the best part of this gloomy forecast. Tomorrow will be kind of warmer.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate working with you, Mike. Yeah, showing us the positive, because, hey, it's true. We are at least a little warmer tomorrow. We get a little warmer towards Sunday as well. But I just want to show you, look how much milder the temperatures are just out towards the west. And generally, you know, we look at that and it's like, oh, well, that'll be coming our way. But here's the problem. In between this core of much colder air, so not only is that moved in, it's going to kind of, the jet stream's going to come up a little bit as the system sort of tries to approach us into the weekend. But by Monday, in fact, we're going to see that reinforce the colder air. So Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, still some very chilly conditions. So what we get over the weekend may not be what you'd like, but try to enjoy that these temperatures will be slightly milder. They will not be up to seasonal, which at this time of year is almost 9 degrees, and our average low is above freezing at this time. Now, just having a look at our skies, yes, starting off, it's been a quiet evening and pretty good through the overnight. Then we'll see some increasing cloudiness, and as we get into Saturday, we may see some intermittent flurries coming through our skies as well, along with some of that cloud cover. We're going to see those winds a little breezy at times from the southwest as well. And going into Sunday, that's when that wind is going to start to pick the temperature up a little further. In fact, we may see a rising temperature Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday, as those readings approach seasonal at least, precipitation coming in fairly light in form, but we'll likely see some showers in our skies, probably more so towards the afternoon on Sunday, so keep that kind of in mind as you're sort of making your weekend plans there. Overnight tonight, -5, feeling like -10 with some flurries into southwestern Ontario. Then you'll see some increasing cloudiness, but not a bad day, just a cool day for southwestern Ontario with highs of 4 to 5 and a little bit breezy there. For the GTA, -9 to -11. In the overnight, the core overnight hours, by tomorrow morning, the temperature's coming up closer to freezing. By the afternoon, we get into readings of mostly 3 degrees for the high, but Sunday we go up to 6, maybe even a little bit warmer than that, frankly, so some light showers possible there. It's into Monday that we may see as temperatures fall and still have that moisture in that next system moving in. We could get some measurable snow. That's still a few days out, so not going to concentrate too much on it yet, but something I'll be watching carefully. Mike?
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
We all need to find ways to keep our jobs interesting, and one Ontario man really does it in style. This is video from our colleagues at CBC London. A construction worker right outside the station keeping himself active during some downtime with this shovel sword play. Not sure if he's a Star Wars fan, a former color guard performer, or just a fan of swords, but he definitely has a handle on this routine. Now that is talent. Well, just before we go, TTC riders should expect some delays this weekend as crews work on signal upgrades. On Saturday, Line 1 will be closed between St. Clair West and King stations. And on Sunday, the closure will shift to Bloor Young to Osgood stations. Shuttle buses will be operating on the weekend. That's our newscast for tonight and for the week. Tomorrow on Quirks and Quarks, Bob McDonald talks about the huge milestone reached by the Voyager 2 space probe this week. It became only the second man-made object to enter interstellar space, 41 years after it was launched. You can hear that tomorrow at noon on CBC Radio 1. We'll leave you now with some pictures of an adorable baby giraffe born at a zoo in northern Czech Republic. It may be cute, but this species, the Rothschild's giraffe, is endangered. The numbers are thought to have fallen to just 2,000 across Africa, which makes this little guy's birth a big celebration. Have a great weekend.